G'day and welcome back for more Space Engineers Survival. And I think I missed a good opportunity to make something really cool out of vanilla blocks here in this cockpit. A few people reckon that these consoles are maybe a bit too big, and I agree. I think it's just a little crowded in this cockpit, and I also feel like this might be one of those times, those rare times, where we might be able to get a better result out of the vanilla blocks. So I'm going to do a complete redesign. So the idea I've got in mind for this redesign is to use the standard button panels. We're also going to get rid of these LCDs up. I shouldn't have done that. Maybe I'll create enough room with what I'm planning on doing here. So let's just clear up a little bit of space here. We want programmable blocks. We want button. I can't remember if I got rid of it from my other hotbar. And I also want corner LCDs. And I'll just get the full one. So, put a couple of programmable blocks on there and one on there. And there'll be little consoles that we can use, but also, conveniently, they can be the place to house our scripts that we're going to be using. Then, what I thought for a little table across here would be light armor slopes of that type. They'll create a nice little platform for me to put the buttons on. So we can place buttons across here like so. We might also put another button up here. Let's get rid of these Let's get rid of these LCDs now, because having them all the way up the top there was actually really inconvenient. I'd much rather have them across the bottom here where we can display useful stuff on them. And what I'll do to create space for that is actually get rid of these text panels here and take advantage of that little yellow shelf that we built outside. I hadn't planned this at the time, but it's worked out quite nicely that we can actually use that shelf to place these on as occupying this block, not the block inside, which means we can place the corner LCDs on the back of these, which worked out rather conveniently. And then we can go in here and go corner LCD flat bottom. That's the one I want. And 1, 2, 3, 4. So the sorts of things I was thinking of having on these were displaying our current override so that we have an idea of which way the wheels are trying to go, displaying our current speed, and what else was I planning on having? I think I was planning on having a clock. Oh, and battery power. That's the other thing I wanted to put on there. The other thing I was thinking of doing was putting a couple of pistons on the bottom of the rail car. So like here and here, so that we can use them as bumpers. So if we place a piston there and a piston there, we can extend those slightly, and they may provide some small amount of cushioning. It won't be particularly much. I suspect due to the mass of this tram, it really won't do a great deal, but it might do something. So I figured that'd be nice. And I was also thinking of putting, because the fronts of these don't look really, like the top piston parts don't look great for that, I actually came up with an idea that'll be nice and give me another use for one of the buttons, which would be to put sound blocks on there, which will make them nice and rounded. Like so. So I can use them as bumpers, but I can also make this button into a horn. I haven't added a horn sound to the game yet. I'm totally going to, I just haven't gotten around to it. The other thing that we can do here, which will be very convenient, is to place corner LCDs along here as well, so that we can have the buttons labeled as what they do. The last couple of touches I want to put in here, I'm not going to use a bench this time, since we've started making this thing entirely vanilla, and right now I think the tram is 100% vanilla. I don't think there are any modded blocks on it at all. In fact, there aren't. It is 100% vanilla. Oh, no, it's not. No, it's not. There's the transformer blocks. boxes. But you could easily replace those with proper batteries. That wouldn't be too hard to make this thing full-on vanilla. Which I may do at some stage. Just to post the design. I was thinking I'd use passenger seats in here instead of the bench. We could probably put just one seat in. And then, what might be a nice touch would be a small cargo container, but that way. So it looks like a little trash bin in the corner, but it's actually going to be full of safety devices like extra hydrogen, maybe a few little repairs, that sort of thing. But I feel like that is going to be a much more spacious, more useful like controllers compartment thingamajiggy. Basically a better space to use than what we had before. And I definitely agree with people that said that it was a bit too cramped. Plus, I do love the idea of making a cockpit that is full-on vanilla. And yet still being happy with the end result. So I'm going to do the same on the back. And I'm also going to set up the scripts onto the programmable blocks. The scripts I'm going to use are M-Master's automatic LCDs for the speed, the time, and for the battery percentage. And the other script I'm going to use was actually written for me by Octavio, but his wasn't the only one I was sent. It's just the first one that I had, so I'd already set it up. I'm recording this afterwards if you can't tell. The other script I was sent was by Balloony Cat, and I will include the link to their script in the description, as Octavio has not yet published his version. What it allows me to do is to have a single button that will update the... Oh, I'll show you it when I've finished the tram. That's going to be much better. So let's jump ahead to when this is all fixed up. Alrighty, so this is the end result. We have our buttons forward, reset, and reverse. We have our emergency stop. We have our override percentage showing up here. And this is displaying relative to the end of the tram this is on. So because this is kind of just through happenstance the rear of the tram, forward is actually sending a minus command to the programmable block, reset setting a 0, and reverse setting a positive. But if we press forward from this end, we see a positive. If we go down to the other end of the tram and we hop in here, we'll see the override is 0. This one is sending a positive command and again sets it to 30. Let's just leave it at 20 and then we'll head down the other end and show that it is going to show a negative 20 at this end. See? So it's actually relative to the position you'd be facing looking out the front windscreen, which is very, very handy and very, very cool. Now, we've got our little bumpers with our little sound blocks on them, and let's test them out. Let's get moving. And something is in the way. Yeah. We got a horn. It's a ridiculous horn, but it's still a horn. The power percentage, I roughly worked out... I just picked a random number, really. How much power should be on the tram. And I don't think the transformer blocks allow it to have more than 9 hours of power, so I put it at 9 hours, and it works out okay. The clock is actually my real local time as I'm recording this, so that's going to be interesting when I do some edits, as you'll see that sometimes I have to leave and come back, and a few hours will pass in between, or we'll go backwards in time, or other things like that. I haven't decided yet what to use this button for, but I'm sure I will come up with something, and I have been given some good suggestions. I just haven't picked one yet, and I will undoubtedly pick one. So let's hop down to the other end of the tram and get back into the station so that we can do our next thing. So it's surprisingly easy to control this way. And you can come to a fairly smooth stop if you time it okay and just hit 0. Look at that. Oh, I went past the bit of the platform I can actually walk out easily on, but whoop, there we go. A few people have suggested I make a sensor that covers the whole tram, that as soon as I leave that area, it puts the brakes on. And they're right, I should do that. And I will do that. I just haven't done it yet. But it is a safety device that will be added to the tram. In fact, why don't I just do that now? That would make sense. I'm worried about the battery concern. No, I will do that with the sensor afterwards, because that's a fairly large sensor field, so it'll use up a fair bit of power. I'll wait till I've got the battery loading system done before I do something that might use up that much power. Speaking of the battery system though, I kind of feel like this station is very well suited to passengers. It doesn't really look much like an industrial station area. So we need an industrial station area. And that means we need an alternative spot to join up to this base. Unfortunately, the way that things are here, I don't have an easy way to divide this track. Because I've built this all with large blocks, and I've got this tiny little gap here and here. No, that's the other gap. This tiny little gap here. I can't double up on that gap and create two spits where this track could spin. So what I'm going to need to do is actually set up a section of track that is made with small grid blocks. That's always a bit of a dicey prospect with these trams, as small grid blocks and their collisions are a little bit funny at times with wheels, but it's our only option. So we're going to do it, and I probably should have been counting while I was doing that. No, I can count the bottom ones. Because what I want is, I think 7 blocks is just long enough. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7's probably quite comfortable, but the drill tram is a bit longer than this one. So why don't we go with 9? 9 large grid blocks. And we'll start about here. So what I'm planning on doing is having a section of rail that is built with small grid that is mounted on a rotor underneath. And that section of track will be able to send us off in our tram on a line to either side. We'll probably just go towards this side, since I don't think I'll need more than that. But if we do in the future want an extra parking spot for another tram or something like that, we could always add an extra area off to the other side as well. Now, drilling out this area for this little turntable is also an interesting thing. I would like it to be relatively neat. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make the area be drilled out by the turntable itself. So there we go, 9 blocks along, and then somewhere in the middle, and by somewhere in the middle I mean dead center, we need our rotor. And I'm going to use an advanced rotor just because I like the idea of using the advanced rotor head as our base for our piece of track. Because it's bigger, I think it'll just look a bit nicer, giving us that 3x3 area to attach stuff to. I was about to fly all the way back, but I remembered that I actually have the ability to connect to our base remotely. Advanced rotor. I'm guessing it's going to be this one. Add small head. Oh yeah, got it in one. I have to fly back anyway because I need small steel tubes. So what I'm going to need to set up on this rotor is a system where we can have some drills that gradually expand their way out until they've drilled out this whole area. In fact, what I'm going to do as well is just weld this up to create some space in my inventory. Is actually grind off these ends, because I'm almost certainly going to smack them with my drills anyway. So the idea I'm going to go for is quite simple. We place... Ooh, maybe that will work better. Yeah. If I place a couple of light armor blocks like so, then place a piston on top like that, and one facing that way. Then place a couple of blocks on here, and then we just place a whole truckload of drills. Oh, I think that's going to scrape on the rotor. I think I will, for these bottom drills, just push them a little bit further forward. Yeah, there we go. So something else you're probably noticing is that these drills are not going to expand out far enough for what I need. because a single piston is not going to be enough. Alright, I'm going to have to nest some. Let's do it. Okay, so that's going to be the rough idea. These drills, and then we'll just spin around and we'll gradually increase the range on those pistons until we've drilled out this whole area. Looking at this, you might be wondering why I've gone with so many drills when I could easily use the right-click drill method and clear out a much greater amount of space. But that's exactly why I've gone with this. I kind of want to see if I can create a nice, neat cylinder using this method. I don't really need one here, but I thought it'd be interesting to test it out and find out whether it can be done. So let's hop into control of this and go drills. It'll be all of these. Toggle on. And now we're going to increase our velocity to 1. We'll let these spin around, and then once they've done a full revolution, what I'm going to do is start pushing out those pistons. And we should be able to clean out a fairly good area this way. If I wanted to do this in one go, I would have to place some drills along the length, because otherwise the sides of the drills would smack into the walls, which is obviously far from ideal. Now, these aren't going to hit on the roof, are they? No, it's well and truly clear. Cool. Yeah, this is going to work nicely, I think. Be interesting to see just how flat the area is that it can create. I'm never going to find out which of those pistons are. There's so many other pistons on the base. Let's just do it with build vision. Don't want to push it out too far at a time, as I'll then start whacking into the side of the drills rather than the drill heads actually clearing space for themselves. So I'll go like one of the telescopic sections of each piston. Each revolution, I think, would be plenty safe enough. Could probably go a bit further than that, actually. But the other advantage of going so small each time is that the bottom and top of the spheres of the bottom and top drills will then make a smoother surface across the floor and the ceiling of the cave. Which, you know, given the amount of effort I put into all of these caves that I've drilled, is kind of something that I find important. And testing different drill methods like this is of, well, it's of particular value and interest to me. Alright, let's think that's far enough. Now these are using the left click drill, so they are accumulating stone inside, which I'm going to have to figure out how to get rid of afterwards. And I have some ideas. I might be slightly worried that my 2 pistons aren't going to be enough and I should have gone with 3. Ooh, I can jump that. Can I jump that? Yeah! Alright. That was convenient because I've run out of jetpack fuel. 6 was probably enough to get me up there anyway, but kind of nice to know that it is possible to jump this. And then let's stop you about there. So these are currently full of stone, and we're just going to ditch the stone on the ground as I have a plan of how to get rid of it. So there we go, we got giant rocks all over the ground. Now, someone once told me that apparently this used to work and you could actually grind away these big chunks of rock. Well, nope. Can we drill them away? Nope. So, I have another solution. If we hop up here and we walk around here, a lot of this ground we need to drill out eventually anyway. So, what we're going to do is we're going to exceed the object limit in the game by left-click drilling and creating a whole bunch of rocks in here that will hopefully get cleared out automatically by the time we actually need to use this space. But by occupying the object limit with these, those other big ones are just going to get deleted. So it's sort of a weird way to go about it, but it is effective. Let's see if we've got any giant rocks left over here. And we do not. There we go. Like magic. Alrighty. What I'm going to do is... Ow, I'm going to run into the wall apparently. I'm just going to build an arm of light armor blocks out until I get the drill head about where I want it, then retract those pistons and start this whole process again. Well, I would say that is a pretty neatly drilled out cylinder. I'm quite happy with the results of this. Let's turn this off, clean it up, and then we'll be ready to build onto the track. So what we're going to do with this now is line it up to the track properly. So I will set the lower limit to 0 and the upper limit to 90. Then I'm going to set our velocity to -3. And it's not going to move for some reason that makes no sense. Why aren't you moving? Oh. Weird. Shared inertia tensor on it really doesn't like me. Okay, we'll leave that off. Cool. So now we've got that. I now have to place down a whole truckload of blocks to line up with the track. I am going to need a top rail on this turntable. So what I'm going to need to build onto this is an arm that comes out, goes up, and then comes around to the top to allow the top rail to be on there. And I'll add that in now as well. Realistically, I need to leave 1, 2, 3, 4, possibly 5 blocks out. And I want to have these relatively far along. So what I might do is like 3 arms, one about here, about a quarter of the way in, one at the middle, and one at the quarter of the way towards the other side. I don't want them right at the ends because then I will hit the wall with them. Okay. That is, I think, a pretty decent go at the turntable. The advantage of these extra beams around here is not that we need them for any degree of support since there's no structural integrity, but if we hop in the tram, I'll show you why I think they will be handy. Once we get onto the turntable, it's actually really difficult to know where we need to stop so that we're on it. However, the position of those beams should be about right for us to just move until we can see one out the door. There we go. Now, because we can see this out the door and it's still relatively close, we're definitely not off the end here, and we're also definitely on the other end here. So that is actually really, really handy. Probably should have gotten in the other end of the tram to do this, but oh well. One day I might actually start using these things properly. The last thing we're going to do for today though is we're going to bring the drill tram down to the turntable so that it is ready to go for next time, where we will drill out the battery transfer area and build the transfer crane for that. This episode is going to finish much sooner than is usual, and that's because I'm about to go traveling. For those of you who's been watching my cooperative series, you'd know that I'm gonna have to have some shorter videos, and unfortunately, Survival Maybe is actually going to take a bit of a break while I'm away. The good news is when I come back, I will have had plenty of time to think of all of my multitude of plans that I have for the base and for the series. From the tank, to the assembler room, to the upside down med bay, to the elevator for the tram at the other end of the line. So very much to do. There is no way I am leaving that undone. So there is all that and plenty more to come. And next time, we'll get this battery transfer area and even a little crane built. And I will see you then.